Hey. Welcome back to Trek Chat, a podcast brought to you by Trek on the Tube. I am your usual host, Sean, and I am joined today by two very special guests. One is returning, Paul, over from, I'm so bad with this. It's Trek Culture. You're from, right? Right, good. Because there's Trek Central and Trek Culture, and I get them confused. I'm a terrible person.
I'm basically just from Twitter, though, so.
Yeah, he's basically, okay, no. He's big time. He's from the red carpet.
Yeah, don't sell him short.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And The Mandalorian's Paul. Is that better?
Oh, well, let's not talk about that because this is Star Trek.
Okay. Sorry. Let's edit that out.
Don't cross the temporal barrier between franchises. I think that's part of the temporal prime directive.
Okay. Janeway gets told off all the time.
Right.
And our second guest is Matt. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Matt from Twitter also?
Yes, Matt from Twitter. I think that's Giselle Ricks from Twitter.
All
the
right.
asshole popping around.
Today we have a topic that some of us forgot. We're going to be shipping characters with ships, because shipping is a big thing in Star Trek. Slash fiction has been a huge part of Star Trek for years and years and years, as well as ships, and a thing that people call ship porn because they love their ships. Matt here is a ship man. What's going on?
I am a self-proclaimed ship whore. So I love shipping ships, and we finally have a confirmed ship with Spurk in Lower Decks now. So, shipping is alive and well in Star Trek.
That they were, together at that bar. Doesn't necessarily confirm that they were romantically involved.
Hey, I'm just shipping them. I can ship them as friends.
You can ship them as much as you want. So that's it. We're going to ship our favorite ships with our favorite characters, see what kind of dynamic duos we can come up with. And then Matt also wanted to go over, like, if we could make our own ship, be the captain of our own ship and have our crew, who would that crew be? So take it away, Matt.
I didn't realize I was heading this up, but let me just pull up my notes here.
He's got notes.
I got to start. I have to start with, like, it's one of those quintessential questions where if you're hanging out with somebody that really is into Star Trek, they've probably put thought into this. If you could pick any ship to be captain of and any crew, what would it be? And here's mine for everyone's auditory pleasure. Obviously, this is not going to come as a surprise, but we would be captaining a Sovereign class. Because really, if you're going to pick anything, why not pick the best option out there? And if anyone wants to fight me on this, they are more than welcome to. But the Sovereign class, I don't even get the Inquiry can be the fastest, toughest little whatever Riker says. I'm sorry. The Enterprise E, the Sovereign class, is always going to take number one in my heart.
I'm gonna ask questions as you go along with this. Are you picking the Sovereign class because it's like your favorite of, like, the Enterprises, or simply because it's the most recent? Because there's the Enterprise J, but is that bullshit?
I just like the Sovereign class because I think it fits everything I think a starship should be. It's gorgeous. You have a nice line for saucer separation. You have the saucer, the nacelles. It's a beautiful, quintessential Star Trek ship. And if you can go up against a Borg cube and have your shields stand as well as it did in First Contact, and if you can ram it into, a Romulan, deadly warbird like they did in Nemesis and still be able to go to warp afterwards, I think that the Sovereign class is that is peak ship design in my book. That's why I would pick it.
I have a question. We're audio only, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt, for those who can't see, Matt keeps pointing to his painting.
Yeah. Not just a painting. I'm a plug this. I'm proud of this. It even says you can't probably see it on camera, and you definitely can't see it on a podcast. But it does say, "To Matt, engage," from John Eve. So
wow.
These are both, and it does say, "To Matt," so these are both from John himself.
Okay, so I mean,
possessions.
You just got done slamming the Inquiry class, and you actually have concept artwork that they used to base the Inquiry class off of behind you. So
I am not slamming the Inquiry class. I think the Inquiry class is a fantastic rough sketch. I think it is It's a good beta test ship. My biggest problem with it was the fact that it was copy and pasted several hundred times for a finale that was thrown together. But I do like the way it looks.
It doesn't have a saucer
the
section.
grill.
It doesn't have a it doesn't have a deflector dish, does it?
It does
It
not
has
have
a-
a deflector disc.
I mean, it has that like grill in the front of it, so that might be.
It looks like an open mouth.
Yeah, well, honestly, if it had a proper
It's a
deflector,
scoop.
even if it was a totally different design, I would be all for the Inquiry class. But it seemed rushed, and now we've come to find out, through interviews that it was, and that's totally understandable with production. We all understand that. So I'm willing to give it a pass, but I can't say that it gets top marks in my book just because it was so rushed. And we have so many great designers with Star Trek Online. You would think that the producers of Picard might have been able to, say, hey, could we get a couple CGI models from you? If they were squeezed for time, but oh well.
The Eagle Moss actually looks pretty cool. I'm looking at the Eagle Moss version of this, and it looks pretty nice. I found that most Discovery ships that we could only like glimpse at, for like half a second, they all turn out pretty freaking cool.
If only we had better contrast in the show where we could actually see them. That's my biggest gripe with one of my biggest gripes with Discovery, is that you just can't see. Everything's just so washed out and gray and lens flare.
Yeah,
I mean, I obviously
that first season was especially like crazy with the nebulas, and at any time there was never just like a blank star field. There were always around some kind of garish, colorful space phenomena.
Space is busy, yo.
Yeah, it looked like a deviant art wallpaper or something.
I had a running
great
joke
for a
about my
while.
reviews where I kept on like saying the show was blue. I was trying to find the episode that wasn't blue, and every time they would go to a planet, like everything was blue.
Yeah.
We got a little off topic, but
Already off topic.
we are expanding our Star Trek ship discussion, is what I hear.
Okay.
All right. Here's my crew, and some of these might surprise people, specifically Paul, because I give him shit for everything. But first officer, I'm gonna have to go with Saru. I feel like he would balance me out well. He would keep a level head, know how to get through things. Chief Medical Bashir.
Is this like when you say these people? Is it as they were last featured? So this is like post, I guess, evolution for Saru and everything.
Yeah, specifically him. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you saying that you're the captain of this ship?
Yeah.
Why would I put myself as an ensign? Like, I'm not going to be.
He's not going to
scrubbing
kill
the plasma
himself.
conduit.
It's not like a fantasy baseball team where you're like choosing a captain and a first officer.
No. This is you have to be the captain here.
Oh, you have. Yeah, you are the center chair.
So
You're the one. What
You're shipping
think?
yourself with the ship, and then you're shipping yourself with the crew, basically.
So you're the
meta
captain
shipping.
of the Enterprise E with Saru as the first officer. Is that where we're at right now?
That's where we're at right now.
Okay. Or is it just like some generic sovereign class ship?
Well, if we're going to get that specific, I do have my one from Star Trek Online, the USS NX, which is sitting right here, and not anybody else can see it. But I do have my model right here. She's my ship. I will go down with this ship as any good. I will keep
Saru
my
wouldn't
shirt
let you.
tucked
Though.
in.
See, you've chosen the wrong first officer. He'd throw you off the ship. He'd beam you off, and he'd go down with it.
No. I feel like he knows. He wouldn't have let Giorgio beam off. He would have understood that she was going to go down with the ship. I feel like he just, ever since
Yeah, you're right. But then he'd talk about you for like every next episode, and what you did and everything. Yeah.
And I'm sure Paul could substantiate this, that is exactly what I would want. Anyway, from there, I'm just going down medical Bashir, engineering Balana. I feel like that would be a good choice for chief engineer. Can kind of do her own thing. You can trust that she'll keep the ship together. Security, Malcolm Reed. Got to get some Enterprise in there. Feel like he'd kick some ass if he needed to, or have his ass handed to him. Science, Jadzia, Neelix, and Detmer as a pilot.
Wait, what's Neelix doing?
It's just there. Neelix is just Neelix.
You always have to have that, like, Counselor Troy, goodwill ambassador.
You wouldn't have Guinan instead of like just Neelix as like a random?
Yeah, He's there for moral support, for comedic relief.
All right. Okay.
I think I'd choose Kess over Neelix, but that's.
I would choose Kess over no one.
Yeah, well, Kess would only be there for like a couple of years on your ship, though. That would suck.
I guess she's already dead by this point, right?
Yeah, right. Because like if you're choosing the actual state, then she's like dead. Yeah, she's like a ball of light at this point, right?
Or is she like a Wesley Crusher type of ball of light where she can come back for a wedding if she wants to?
No, I don't think she can come back. I think just her species kind of like her final state is a ball of light, but then she still dies. Their lifespan is very short. I don't know how
she could just do whatever she wanted.
He ascended.
He's
with the koala now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so.
Yeah, Paul, go.
Okay, you got your.
Lead us in.
Wait, you want to know mine?
Unless you have more questions.
I don't have a stack of pads here, so I don't have like some notes. I couldn't. I would definitely go with like a Galaxy class ship, but that's it's totally subjective, right? Like it's just like my favorite type of ship.
But that's what we're doing.
Okay.
You're picking your favorite. Pick your favorites. Who do you think is best for you?
Okay, I'm gonna do the Enterprise D, and the captain's gonna be Picard, and the first officer is gonna be Riker. And
okay.
I don't know. Sean, you go ahead. Like, give me more time to think about it.
All right. Matt, you'll have to run me through like the positions because I don't have a stack of pads either. But
just do your bridge.
I'm gonna scare you guys. I'm gonna scare you guys because I would want, if I were captain of a Starfleet vessel, I want a steamrunner class.
Ooh.
You know that thing that everyone finds like is a hideous bullshit, but I think it's great. I think it's very unique, and I like the nacelles, how they hook up. And anyway, I feel like it's the most hot roddy of like the prime timeline. I feel like so I'd like that. But I want it a bit updated. Like I want a steamrunner class, but a bit updated. So I'm the captain. Who's my first officer? Who's my first officer in this?
Dead Air is really good. For,
right. I'm actually gonna go with
that out.
I'm gonna go with. Can I go with Riker, even though he's technically captain now?
Sure.
Yeah, because I feel like
time
Riker
doesn't matter.
It's like that video game, Star Trek Timelines, right? Like you can mix and match your. I think I don't know. I haven't played it, but it looks like I've seen those pretty epic commercials.
Okay, so
they do spend a lot of money on those.
They do. What the hell?
I don't know.
Like they license good music for these video games.
But hey, we've dropped it. We've dropped it, so maybe they'll sponsor you.
There you go.
Yeah,
Star Trek Timeline.
I'd love to be
this game
sponsored by anything, frankly. But yeah, I'd go with Riker as a first officer. Chief Medical, I would I don't know. I think I'd have to go with Dr. Ta'ana because I think she's absolutely amazing, and I'd love to just have like a cat on board somewhere. You
can have a pet.
No, but I don't know.
Like a Porthos.
As a chief engineer, I'd go with Trip because I love me some Trip. I think he's great. Who else we got? We got a Science, right? I know it's technically not really her position, but I'm gonna take 7 because I feel like she's good with the science. I think that makes sense. What are the other positions that I have to fill? What did you say?
Tactical, I guess.
Tactical? Oh, is that tactical and chief security?
Chief security officer. Yeah.
Who's a kick-ass chief security? Who's
don't say Worf because he gets his ass handed to him every
single
time.
I couldn't possibly say Worf. But maybe Keishon would be too annoying because he's got those. He's always using those expressions that I wouldn't understand.
It's culturally insensitive to Marians, man.
Those bullshit phrases that I don't understand. Yeah, it does. It sounds a little.
Oh, sorry for being culturally insensitive to what the children of
human centric.
Yeah, it is a bit human centric. I think Kira, no, she doesn't count though because she was never a.
I feel like
she could do that.
She was recruited at one point.
I would do that. She could be my chief of security. She would be boss at that. Like no shit would ever happen wrong on my ship with her around.
And you also know that if push comes to shove, she will absolutely make an illegal weapon just to get the job done. Like, she wouldn't get hung up on Starfleet protocol too much if she didn't have to. She'd be like, oh, all right.
But no one would, care too much about what we're doing anyway with our little steamroller class ship. They'd let us do whatever the hell we want. It's fine.
That's true. That's true.
What's the other ones? We need a helmsman. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that'd be it.
Who's the best pilot in Star Trek?
Travis Mayweather.
Okay.
I wouldn't go that far.
To do what? Fly it out of a wet paper bag? Like, okay, great.
That's interesting,
That's
actually, because I
Travis.
feel like Travis, as a helmsman, is the one that has the most to learn. So you could have a character on your show that, like, yeah, I'll do Travis, so that he can be like inspired and learn and grow with all of these other characters.
He can show you where the sweet spot is on your ship.
Oh, yeah. Would
You
they
think-
still have sweet spots? There's a question. Do we think ships still have sweet spots by the 20?
Depends on the
Fourth,
build, I
fifth
guess. Like the Cerritos might have 3 or 4 because it's garbage. The Enterprise D probably doesn't have any. How about that? And yeah, I would want to have Guinan around for moral support.
That's a smart
and,
move.
and that's also like I feel like Guinan is a good Q defense just in case,
Mhm.
or like a timeline shenanigan deflector. Because even if stuff happens to you, she can still tell you like, "Yo, something's wrong," So that's my little ship, my little crew.
I have
Are you
so many
on?
questions about the steam runner, but we'll come back to that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I guess I'll go. I'm taking the topic really seriously here, obviously. So I'm sorry. So like definitely would like a Galaxy class starship.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just what is that? You made a face again.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is it just too much wine? What's that face
Yeah,
for? Paul. What's against? What do you have against DePaul?
No, she's a great character.
But not a good first officer to you.
You are allowed to choose whoever you want. Whoever you think best compliments you. I think T'Pol on a Galaxy class would be way out of her league. That's just my 2 cents.
I mean, you put.
No, that's not fair. That's unfair. I feel like the characters within the context of this exercise know the ships that they're on.
That is fair. That's fair.
I mean,
So
I
I
would
just-
criticize your selection of Reed, but like Enterprise, they basically had all the same weapons they have later on in the other series. So it's like he would know how to operate a phaser and a photon torpedo. He just called it a phase pistol and a photonic torpedo.
Right. Which I think that might just be his British anyway. So
It'd be so annoying though, because every time the red alert would come on, I'd be like, "I invented that."
This is the Reed alert. Yeah.
Oh, hate that.
Every-
Anyway, so
renamed
T'Pol.
But
Pick
it's mine.
Paul. Okay, so then my science officer would be Kelvin Timeline Spock, just because I
he's
need a
going
little
Kelvin.
bit. I need a little
Could we just
representation.
default? Is it just like the Kelvin Timeline Galaxy class too? Is it just like big bulbous nacelles and it's just a bubble at that point? Is that what?
Sorry, can I add just a random Murph? I know we haven't seen Murph yet, but I want Murph on my
Yeah.
crew just to be there. I think Murph is going to be amazing. Sorry.
That Murph is your Neelix. You just
Yeah.
get whatever Murph
I
does.
keep Guinan though.
You get both.
That's right.
Okay, so then I guess I'll make Shax my tactical officer because he's entertaining as hell. But I'll make Odo my security officer
Oh dear.
because like he's a shapeshifter. So like, what can't he do? I mean, he can shift his mass out of this dimension in order to become a rat, or like a glass or like a tray of latinum or whatever the hell Odo does.
Shax is gonna call like meetings with you every like fortnight just to tell you that he doesn't trust Odo. I don't trust that guy.
His paw is weak and it disgusts.
His paw is weak. I don't even think he has one.
The founders are not of Bajor.
No, they're really not.
Literally, yeah, they're the antithesis of Bajor.
I'll make the helmsman Tom Paris because that guy knows how to party.
Picard technically was a helmsman. Someone could just choose Picard, but as the helmsman.
He did. Yeah, he was especially of a Galaxy class once
Yeah,
that we
that-
saw
that-
specifically.
that's true.
That's cheating.
Who else am I missing? A medical officer.
Medical, yeah.
You
And
know,
science.
Obviously, Dr. Pulaski. I mean, she's awesome. I mean, again, I'm going with like, I think like
I think you killed Matt.
highly entertaining. She'd be so much fun to be around, you know?
I would have said Pulaski if Ta'ana didn't exist.
Right.
Dr. Ta'ana is like Pulaski, but as a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So I prefer that. I think that one-ups. But Pulaski is amazing. Like, Crusher ain't shit compared to Pulaski. Sorry.
Wow, you guys are just wanting to give me an aneurysm tonight. This is...
Right. We'll bring you a little PSC, Pulaski chicken soup. And then I need a chief engineer, right?
Yeah.
Would it be the most boring answer in the world to say Geordi LaForge?
I mean, he basically designed the Galaxy class at this point, so you might as well just double down on it.
You've had enough entertaining crew members, I feel like, to have like one just by the book.
Total wet blanket.
Yeah. But then you can kind
Someone
of
that
like
can actually get the work done.
You could make fun of him, like dating a holographic woman.
I really like
in
Geordi.
retrospect,
I mean, who doesn't like Geordi?
He's
right?
great. I can't believe none of us picked Data. I can't believe none of us wanted Data.
Data's played out, man.
That's my thing.
Well, he's
That's
dead
what it
also.
is. It's
dead
not
twice.
that I don't want him. It's that I am so sick of seeing Data. I'm sorry. It's the same as I am with Spock. I'm so sick of
you picked
seeing
Kelvin
Spock. I don't care if he's gay. I don't care if he's straight. I don't care if he has emotions. I'm so sick of Spock. I'm sorry. I had to get that out.
Yes. Spock is the star of Star Trek.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling Starfleet Boy. I keep saying, like, Star Trek is essentially the story of Spock. And sometimes we have, like, these little divergent things where we go into, like, Enterprise and there's not one mention of Spock, but still we have a lot of Vulcan shit. But I don't know. I feel like Star Trek is the story of Spock. So much so that he even took us into, like, another timeline. He's taking us into, like, a prequel, 2 prequel spin-off shows. Anyways, Spock is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand it. I just don't think we need to rely on him. But that's just me.
I mean, you're probably right, and I mean, not to mix the franchises again, but isn't this like the same criticism of a lot of Star Wars media? Is that it relies too heavily on pre-existing characters?
I mean, we have such a gorgeous, like, litany of, you know, things that we can explore with Star Trek, especially different, you know, how many times we haven't seen much of, you know, the Andorians. We haven't seen much of, you know, all of these interesting species that we saw in Deep Space Nine and all these things. And it just seems like we keep falling back on, you know, let's retell the story of this character's childhood when we could be showing, like, what, you know, what does Starfleet look like to an outsider like a Bajoran that just joined the Federation, you know, and they come from a highly religious background, and Starfleet is very notoriously I don't want to say you know, non-religious. You know, they're very scientific. It's very by the book. They don't have faith. They have science. So that's my biggest thing, is I think we need to see more. I want more outside interesting perspectives.
I mean, I think I've had my fill of the like Bajoran perspective from Deep Space Nine. We got a good chunk of that for 7 years on Deep Space Nine. But I take your point about needing an outside perspective, because I mean I completely agree with you. Rather, like I would love to see like a non-Starfleet. You know, I mean that's one of the reasons why I like Star Trek Picard so much is. I mean, half the characters are ex-Starfleet, fine, but you know, at least they're, you know.
But
it gives you like a civilian perspective, I guess.
Exactly, we're getting to see, and if anything, having those ex-Starfleet characters. This is completely off topic, but it's still a good topic. Like, we're getting to see those people. We're so used to seeing Starfleet, and so we know all of those parameters that they've been used to, and now we're getting to see them taken out of that and put into this bigger universe. And that's one of my favorite things. I'm going to soapbox just for a small second. One of my favorite things is, and one of the things that I think a lot of people have mistranslated with Star Trek Picard is Raffi. And a lot of people were saying, you know, oh, why is she just in the desert? They don't have money, but she's complaining about, oh, look what you've left me with, and acting like she's poor. And it's not that she doesn't have money and she doesn't have means. It's that her hope was taken away. Her entire life that she had in Starfleet was taken away. And because of that, she turned to this hermit lifestyle that she just kind of secluded in on herself. And she turned to things like, snake leaf to supplement those, those addictions that she just couldn't cope with on her own. And that's why she was so mad with Picard. And so many people want to have issue with that, but it's such a poignant and great way to express a modern day scenario of someone that is just hopeless, has no outlet, and just turns in on themselves in the Star Trek universe that I'm so excited to see explored more. They teased with her son and stuff, but it's stuff like that we need to see more of like, she doesn't have this blanket of Starfleet that she can just delve into her work. She has to actually be a human and deal with her own emotions and stuff. So soapbox done. But I'm excited to see what Picard does.
I should have put Raffi on my crew. She's always right.
Yeah.
I mean, and she'd be fun.
Oh God. Or Lara.
You could have her as your Neelix, as your like bonus civilian as Raffi.
Sure. Planet Raffi. Yeah.
I feel like it's bizarre because Picard came out and it's like it's the present of like it's what I consider the present of Star Trek. Like post TNG, this is the first thing we're getting post TNG, post Nemesis, Voyager. It's Picard, and so in that respect, I feel like a lot of people were kind of like me in wanting Starfleet. It's like, okay, this is like the baseline show, and now I want to see Starfleet in it. Regardless of what Picard delivers, I think that if they get, I don't know, if they get bolder with the decisions and with the shows that they're going to make in this new era, we will eventually get a show that is like completely out there. Prodigy is getting close to that. But eventually I think that they will make a show that is just like, because I would like a show with no humans, right? Or maybe one human, just like aliens completely. This is an alien species show like the few years towards when they get like warp capable, and then show their interaction with Starfleet or with like the Federation from like an outside perspective. Do basically First Contact the episode, but as a show. I would love that. I don't think
isn't Prodigy all non-humans?
Basically, except for Janeway,
who's a hologram.
Who's a hologram. So yeah.
And Chakotay, who's apparently also a hologram.
Right, yeah. What's going on there?
Is he? Well, it's not confirmed that he's coming back as Chakotay. Is it confirmed that Chakotay hologram?
It's confirmed that Chakotay is coming back as Chakotay. It is not confirmed in what capacity.
Okay, so it's Robert. What's Robert Beltran?
Robert Beltran, yeah.
Okay, so he's coming back. All right, maybe he'll just be voicing something. I don't think they'll bring him back to not be Chakotay though.
That would seem weird. I did see that. The creators are being a little bit cagey about when the show's set. I had seen earlier reporting saying it was like 5 years or something after Voyager returned to the Alpha Quadrant, but now they're kind of being cute about when the show is set. Other than
that's interesting because I looked like a fool several times because apparently, so I've tweeted multiple times, when are you going to tell us when the show is going to happen? And every time someone's like, dude, you've already tweeted this, you've already asked this, we keep on telling you. It's like 2382 or 2383, and that's the reply that I keep on getting. But every time it seems to completely be removed from my mind, and then I go and try to look for the information, but I can't find it anymore. So is it, like last I heard, or now that it's been, slammed into my brain a million times, it's 2382 or 2383, but maybe not.
I mean, I saw, I don't
It's
remember.
Delta Quadrant though, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, they
doesn't matter, I guess.
We're happy to confirm it is, yeah.
That's why I still don't believe it's a Tellarite. I think they're lying, and he's a Talaxian, and he's from the Delta Quadrant. Why the hell would a Tellarite be over there? But I guess humans are over there.
Oh, well,
yeah.
And Ferengi.
I'm still thinking that, and this is just my own personal speculation, I'm still thinking they're going to frame it as the USS Protostar was the first ship sent deep space after Janeway got back. Based on slipstream technology, they gave her a hologram as the emergency command hologram type of, thing. And then it got lost, crashed on this planet, or was stolen by, whatever the main villain is, crashed on the planet. So, I mean, that would be within the next, I'm betting 5 to 15 years after Voyager.
Okay. Well, the Kazons are coming back in the trailer that they showed.
Yeah.
So Paul's loving that.
I love me some Kazons. I just need some Vidians.
I would love
Didn't
that
they
too.
cure the phage?
The think tank cured the phage, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
I still
wouldn't
like
mind seeing the think tank again, actually.
maybe
Get a little oh crap, I completely forget his name.
Jason
Jason
Alexander.
Alexander.
Jason Alexander, thank you.
He can do voice
Get a
work. He did
little,
voice work for the
cameo.
amazing, fantastic Aladdin 2. The Return of Jafar.
I mean,
Because everyone saw that.
we've touched on a couple things that nobody is really asking for, is a return of the think tank, a return of Kess. You know,
I'm
like
still not asking for a return of Cass, and we're not going to get the voice actress. I hate to tell you, isn't she a felon now? Pretty sure.
I think she went through a couple things, and like the internet likes to make it clickbaity, but I think she's doing better now. Like I think she got like drunk driving and you know that kind of stuff. Because there's a couple pictures that are pretty horrific out there, or like her in bad situations. But I think she's doing better now, or at least we're not hearing about it. So.
I mean, I obviously hope for the best for everyone. I don't want anyone.
No news
going
is good
through
news.
anything.
It's a French expression.
Right.
I don't know if it's an American or an English one either, but
No, we have that. Yeah.
okay.
But at the same time, the last I heard, it was public indecency, and I was like, "That's
Oh dear.
oh yeah. It's
it was
bad
like,
news.
yeah, it
Well,
wasn't."
I mean, once you've ascended, right?
She's just coming back around and playing the villain now
Oh,
in her real life, and that's what she's ascended. She's done all the other, like Q.
That's what she
instead
did
of,
in
you
the
know-
best episode of Voyager. Was it Fury, right?
You think that's the best?
Fury.
Yeah, it's a terrible episode.
That is an awful episode that was thrown together.
I don't hate it as much as people hate it. I still don't think it's good. I would take it away. But I don't despise it as much as other people.
The only thing good about that episode, Janeway and Tuvok, when they have the realization of what they have to do. That was a cute little moment where it went from like lighthearted fun on the bridge, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Oh shit!" Like that's right. Like that was a good moment.
It's a fun sci-fi
Very good acting.
concept, though. Like Voyager is full of very good sci-fi concepts. Sometimes the executions aren't too, I guess, quality-esque.
I think if they had brought Kess back one more time to give her a proper send-off, that would have been fine. But as a, as the last word on the character, it's a pretty rough episode. I do like, hey, Vidians. I do like the Vidians attacking Voyager and crashing a bit of the ship. That's fun, especially since it's like set in like the second season or something like that. So we have this kind of like, it's like a kind of like semi-lost episode from earlier in the series. I always like that kind of thing.
They called what's that dinosaur species called from the Voth?
The Voth. That
I would
was
love
a
a Voth TV
fantastic
show.
concept.
Like I would do every season as like a year or a decade in their evolution and lifetime, and then you show them and they've left, and then they meet up with the Federation years later or whatever. That would be amazing. So show them before humans are ever around, and then after.
See, I'm gonna be the non-fun
He hates
one.
everything.
I hate that episode because I mean, like, it's a cool concept, it's interesting, but isn't it like
It's a shining moment, though, isn't it?
Isn't it like a really big swing for the franchise to say that dinosaurs evolved on an isolated continent on Earth in the distant past, became a technologically advanced species, and left Earth? Isn't that an insane, like? I mean, I know Star Trek gets very crazy, but like to me, that seems like
All right.
that's strange.
The one thing I have.
Sorry, is it as insane as like the original series saying that like Greek gods they were alien species?
Or
The
they
animated
were
series?
forced to accept that a not life-size, but a bear-sized tardigrade can travel on its own at warp through a spore network. Like, I don't know.
I do
feel
see
like
the difference because what you're saying is like a thing that happens elsewhere in space, whereas the Voth evolution kind of affects Earth specifically, I guess. Like
does
it
it when it's
affects our
100 million
history.
years removed?
just
Perhaps.
muddies the waters. It takes Star Trek, to me, it takes that universe and pushes it even further towards fantasy, which obviously Star Trek is not the most scientific,
The Deep Space
science
Nine did the
fiction
most
show.
fantasy, I think, with like the book and the Power Wraiths and all of that. Like
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the prophets. And
I feel like
everything.
that's very fantasy-esque, but no, I see what you mean. I love the Voth, though. I think like the idea that of this is just insane. I think the thing that annoys me the most with that is that no one thought about it, no one theorized about it at all within like the entire context of like the Star Trek universe. Like the Doctor is the guy that says, "Hey, it could be this." But no one has written any kind of theoretical, like they could have documented a guy or like some sort of scientist that was completely mad and everyone thought he was crazy and he was writing these things, but it turns out it was real. And not a sung, please, but
well, again, remember, Voyager was also not connected to the Starfleet Information Network, so maybe we could pop up and say, "Oh, look," and we could dive down the rabbit hole of someone in the Daystrom Institute, because everyone gets funding because there's no money. He was doing his research and, nobody took him seriously. And then Agnes P. Girardi would somehow be best friends with him and would be like, "Hey, yeah, no, I know Steven.
Agnes killed Steven for sure. Now she's crying about it, but that's what she did.
Boy, wouldn't that be I would love that if in season 2 of Picard, Agnes is like an unrepentant murderer. They just unleash her whenever they need somebody off. Yeah.
Yeah. And she does it with a transporter and makes it look like an accident every single time.
Oh no.
She's actually a transporter genius. I did love that about Picard, where they were like, "It's just transporting. You just wait until it lights up and you do this." It was kind of a subtle nod to like how everybody just knows how to use a transporter in Starfleet. So I did appreciate that. She was the only one that seemed concerned about being able to, beam someone back.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, there's a lot of people, like, where I work, you can get discounts and stuff using the app on your phone, but like not everyone is accustomed to using the app on their phone, even though it's a very, very, I suppose, commonplace thing nowadays. All you got to do is go on the thing, hit the button, and it gives you a coupon or whatever, like a virtual coupon that you show, and then they scan it. But like a lot of people are like, "I don't know what that is. I don't have the app. I don't know how to use the coupon." So Agnes not knowing how to use the transporter makes sense to me.
Especially, I don't know how to drive a bus, but I use the bus all the time, right? So
I mean, fair point.
I mean, she also, let's be very critically objective here. She also just randomly swallowed a tracking device in a crystalline form because one of Starfleet's officers told her to do it. So
that thing looked delicious. So I would do. That looked minty and refreshing.
Also, they don't beam around at that point. Like in Picard, they beam around, but they don't beam by actually transporting. They just walk into like the whoosh thing.
I loved that. I thought that was such a good way to use public transit in the time of being able to just beam everywhere. I think that is actually a better execution of the evolution of beaming than what Discovery is doing with the personal transporters. Like, I think those are a little hokey. I mean, 32nd century, all right. I'm willing to accept it. I loved that you would just, like, you're going to a bus stop. You're like, "Oh, I need to go wherever," and you just walk up to it, and it's like, this doorway goes to Starfleet headquarters, and this one goes to New Orleans.
People are beaming at the same time, then.
Yeah, it seemed awful dangerous to me.
I think
it's a Tuvix situation waiting to happen.
Like every single second is just Tuvix situations all the time. I mean, it's a good way to reduce population, I guess. You still have
what would happen,
memory,
Paul, if you and I step through together and they just, what if we Tuvix? Would it be better or worse than the two individuals?
It probably just ended up being like a regular human being, but
that's fair. That was not as obsessed with Star Trek. They would be able to function in society. But.
The problem with the personal transporters in Discovery is they never seem to indicate where they want to go. And I know Starfleet Boy tried to say, "Oh, they're thinking it," but it's like they just do this, the double tap, and then they appear somewhere. But like, where the hell are you going?
I thought they said that there were preset coordinates in the badge, and that if you double tap, then you go to those preset coordinates. And I don't remember exactly how they explained it, but like how do you know who you're talking to on a comm badge? You know, like half the time the comm badge can decipher if you're talking to the person in front of you or if you're talking to the person over the. I mean, the doors know when you want to walk through, or if you don't want to walk through, to stop and make a point. You know, like.
I don't understand what you're saying. I think that is totally plausible and completely well within non-simply production technology. I always also did hear that it was that you made a reservation, that you were like, when I double tap my badge or what, you know, I'm going to beam back to wherever or out to wherever. But that could have also just been something that I heard from other people.
All of these things are just, I guess, convenient for like the way the shows are written and conceived. If we had to spend 40 minutes trying to figure out where everyone's going to beam every episode, it wouldn't be as fun. But
yeah, I think it takes a little bit. I think the Tricom is a cool idea, but it kind of takes a little bit of business away from the show itself in a disappointing way. Like who's going to use a turbo lift anymore? You know, and so you lose that. And
use it for the fights.
Oh, right.
Yeah, with all that empty space, maybe that's why there was so much empty space, is all of that transporter buffer is taken out. So now you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you also lose the tricorder, which again is a fun little bit of business, and like that. Those are always like my favorite props, is when when they're playing with their tricorders.
So I will have to say that like that was one of, and I wrote a little editorial thing years ago in like season 1 of Discovery, like whatever happened to the plasma inducer, because it was like Discovery specifically, and Picard didn't do it as much, but I feel like Discovery has really taken Star Trek concepts and everything has been great with it, but they've taken that like realism out of it, and it's those little bits that grounded you. Like, and one of the good examples I always had was the time crystals, from Borath. If they had even taken a second, instead of just calling them these, these fantasy time crystals, and if we had just heard Stamets say, well, okay, it's actually like, a lattice structure based upon chronoton emissions or whatever, and like technobabbled it a little bit more, or made it a little bit more, it's the technobabble, I guess, is what I feel like we're missing.
Directly to the crystals that Janeway uses in Voyager at the end, because she gets some sort of friggin' time thingamabob from a Klingon specifically.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like a time crystal of some kind from a Klingon specifically, but they explain it with technobabble, so they could have just given an explanation or something.
Exactly, and I feel like we're missing a lot of that with Discovery because they want to gloss over that in exchange to do a lot more action shots and more drama and more Michael Burnham crying and stuff like that. Like, it's what I feel like is so many people are saying they don't like Star Trek anymore because we're missing that element of grounding artificial realism.
Yeah, but aren't time crystals real though? They're based in real science, and the mycelial network, all of that stuff is based in real science. So
but they never explain it. Like, they never connect it.
Yeah, it's
like,
perhaps the execution, not so much the ideas. The example I go with often is when they try to capture, that rock, and they have the rock, like the asteroid chunk or whatever it is, floating in the. They basically throw down like a very small circle, like a pad, pink. They throw it down, and then it just unfolds into like this giant carousel magnet shit, and you're like, I get that Iron Man has nanotechnology, whatever it is, to make his suit, but that's the MCU, so nothing matters. In Star Trek, like that feels a bit unrealistic, especially in like it was like Discovery season 2. We weren't yet so far in the future where like the that new character
you could excuse
immediately,
that,
could explain this new kind of technology to Tilly, and you could make a joke about how these characters don't know about this new technology, but this was like, okay, so you have that. Why didn't Kirk deploy one of those, every now and then? But yeah,
and then they had like the dark matter asteroid had enough of a gravitational mass to affect the fragments of an asteroid, but they somehow had enough power in the ship to contain it in a stasis field without it affecting any other ships. Tilly could just pull it into the cargo bay and be like, boop, 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 done, there you go. As opposed to like, hey, reroute main power into the cargo bay to contain this thing. Like, it's those little details I feel like we're missing that just add the realism and the like emphasis that like, this is a big thing. Like, this is a dark matter asteroid that can alter the gravitational forces. And then later on in the episode, we see them eject it and tow it along to save a planet of a bunch of people.
The older Star Trek shows did. The older Star Trek shows, they made a big deal about every single thing that happened. It's like, oh my god, there's a Dyson sphere. It becomes the episode. The whole thing's like, oh my, like there's a Dyson, shit's insane. La-di-da. Whereas in Discovery, but then I mean, I guess like they say, it's a show for like different, like every show's made for different people. So what the people that really love Discovery, they don't watch it for necessarily that kind of realism or that kind of science. So, like, you're a ship guy, so of course you're going to get all intense about the technology. But the people that love Discovery with all their hearts don't necessarily look at that. I feel they're looking for other things. My
point about like the Tricom, it's actually a very impressive model.
Yeah, it's really cool.
My point about the Tricom was, like I totally like hear you guys about like lacking believability in the sci-fi concepts of the technobabble. Like they don't put as much energy into that anymore to sell it to us for our suspension of disbelief. I don't actually
Discovery specifically. I don't like, because every show is
Picard doesn't even rely on it.
Picard doesn't use it, and Lower Decks they're just recreating what like 90s did. So everyone's very specific. Every show is.
But I think my point though about the Tricom kind of like filters into that, which is these shows are now, they're differentiated in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously tonally they're differentiated, but they also have kind of staked out their own like corners of the universe. And I don't care what I don't care what era these shows are set in, as long as they tell good stories, But like, if you're going to say, okay, Strange New Worlds is the mid 23rd century, and Picard is the late 24th century, early 25th century, and Discovery is the 31st, second century, or the 31st, both. You know what I mean? What I mean, the technology kind of like your setting needs to then matter to me. So, so Strange New Worlds can't really have technology that feels more advanced than Picard. To me, like that feels that's misusing your setting, because otherwise just set it all in the 31st century and get it over with.
And that's a really great point. And that's a good distinction between updating sets because we have the technology and more, filming production value, and
bigger cameras. I understand that you need bigger sets to put them in.
Exactly. And we can now do a lot more with set design. It's not all just blank cardboard walls that we had in the 60s. We can make it look nicer. We can make it look more as it should have looked in TOS. But at the same time, I would love to see, number one, hand pike one of those old, big, original pads that they had that, Janice Rand would always hand Kirk. I would love to see like an updated version of that. So you see that like, oh, this technology isn't necessarily more advanced, but it looks different because it's a newer show. That's like, I don't want to see, instantaneous beaming. Like that should still be a thing. Like that takes a little time to, you can't be moving when you beam. Kelvin timeline.
Jump off a motorbike, that kind of stuff.
Right. I can do that.
You guys. I mean, you guys are absolutely right. And Paul, what you're talking about is what I like. Context matters, and I feel like what's the challenge, and what's the fun of writing a show set in this universe that has these limitations, that has this technology? What's the fun if you ignore those limitations and if you don't use the technology that you have? If your character has to communicate via a view screen, if your character has to go to the transporter room in order to beam somewhere, what's the point of writing that show if you ignore that and just have them instantly beam wherever the hell you want? or make it a big deal when they finally do that once. It's like, oh my god, it's the finale. They've got to beam them out from this specific place. Do the Archer's running in front of the explosion. He needs to get beamed or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like you need to take advantage of every single limitation that you have in the time setting or the time frame that you've chosen.
I really like the Kelvin timeline depiction, because obviously it was free to do whatever it wanted, which I really liked. I also liked that they made the effort to make the 23rd century feel particularly futuristic. I also liked that Discovery's first and second seasons did the same thing, and I liked the holographic, displays and view screen. But when you try then to link that stuff to the if you go out of your way to say, no, this is still the Prime universe and it all links up, and don't worry, we're going to make it all consistent. And here, by the way, we're now setting 2 other shows in 2 different eras, and they have different depictions of technology. Then that kind of suddenly falls apart, and it's like I know, like, for most people it doesn't matter, but for people like us who care about like the cohesiveness of the fictional world, that definitely hurts it.
And let's be honest, like, that's the core of Star Trek. Like, there's so many people, even if they don't realize that that's what so many people are watching it and are bothered by it, but they might not figure out why. And I feel like if there was that cohesive tone, even if it was an offhanded remark, and they kind of tried to do it with the holograms and Pike saying, "Oh, just rip it out. There'll never be holograms in the Enterprise now." Like, it was an offhanded.
Pike decides for the entire Federation, screw this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I would have loved to see one that, like, somebody makes mention, or later on in the 23rd century or the 32nd century or wherever, they look back and they go, "Oh yeah, remember in the early 2200s they had holograms. But going into the Klingon War and the conflicts with the Romulans, we stopped using holographic transmissions because they could be hacked too easily. So we went back to something that was more standard and could be a higher encryption level." Or like, just any type of like explanation would be better than just being like, just deal with it. Like, this is new Star Trek, just deal with it. This is how it is now. It's like, well, that's fine. I'm willing to accept it, but just make it plausible. Like, give us a breadcrumb or two of, like, give us a couple time traveling, agents that have to go back and make sure that, the timeline is cohesive, and they make offhand comments like, "Oh yeah, that happened, but this is why it didn't persist," or "This is why."
Any discrepancy, a Red Angel did it. Done.
Yeah. Or, there is a period of time, with that 2 seasons of Discovery, where the timeline was so fragmented that it kept phasing between, Kelvin timeline and Prime timeline, and elements would bleed back and forth. And then we finally got a handle on it when Discovery went up time. And that's what, reset the timeline into what it should be. And that's what we see in Picard and beyond.
You could make an entire show just with, like, every episode is a Star Trek fix. That's it. Like,
could you?
Oh yeah. Like, every episode they go and they fix something. It would be, I don't know if it would be like more expensive or cheaper. Like, they would have to, like, even like reuse footage and maybe like bring back actors and, I don't know, like virtually recreate sets and all that shit. But it would be pretty cool. I mean,
that's what
potentially you could screw everything up even worse. You'd have to have like friggin' expert level, like, geniuses on this thing trying to figure out everything that's going on. Especially considering every show kind of has its own set of rules when it comes to time travel or just regular warp travel, everything. So like connecting everything, try to have it make sense would be a monumental task. But yeah,
I mean, all that bitching aside, I do really like that each of these shows that are currently on the air or about to be on the air have their own distinct look and distinct section of the universe. And I'm totally, I can look past the fact that Strange New Worlds looks oddly far more futuristic than the Picard even, but whatever. It looks cool, so fine.
Yeah, all I'll say is I can look past like the visuals and everything, and I do agree that stories are very important. But I do find it a little mean, maybe, when someone says, it's not important. Like, it's not important to you, perhaps, like the visuals. It's as important to me or to you guys, like what the visuals are, as it is important, as the stories are important to someone else. Like, we all love Star Trek for different reasons, and I don't think any reason is necessarily less valid than another. And I think that just like dismissing visual continuity on the basis that, like, oh, the stories are still good, I don't think that's necessarily very respectful for like the people that have been so invested in like the visual continuity, especially considering there's so many books and like encyclopedias and everything about the visual continuity of Star Trek. And yeah, there's like so many artists that put all of their heart and soul into making everything connect and be like this connected and coherent over the years. That
And to bring it back to our ship topic that we apparently had originally.
I have to rename this episode. What are we naming it? God damn.
Star Trek as of now.
Shooting the ship.
Ooh, love that.
All right, shooting the ships.
But like, how many people have we seen on, again, DeviantArt, on all these different places that want to put the ships in scale, or they want to add that element of realism. They want to put the ships in comparison to a city or in comparison to these things that we see in our real lives, to make it more accessible, to make it more, you can actually visualize over, I look out, I know that, the Sovereign class is about 35 stories tall if I was looking at a building, by the time you get Jeffrey's tubes and everything like that into it. So I can look at a 35-story building and be like, oh, that's about as tall as a Sovereign class would be. And we've gotten so far away. Like, we still have no idea how big Discovery is. Like, of all of the things, like, we still don't have a canon size for the USS Discovery, A or B, or Prime, or
they could make a full set of short treks where it's just like 5 minutes each ship, where it's just a person walking around a ship from different angles, from like on the ground next to it. Like it could, like, even the person could be CG, just VFX the whole damn shot of just a person walking next to a ship, looking at it, trying to fix it, I don't know, like an inspector doing the inspection. And then every like main ship, or in a shipyard going around in a shuttle, like they could make a complete 20 episodes.
And it would give me, and I can already say, they could just do an entire short trek put it all way ahead in the 32nd century or whatever, so you can encompass all the ships.
Museums.
But just a little guy in a maintenance worker bee that is going around and doing maintenance in the old ship museum. And you see him going around to every single ship that they have on display, and then you would have a Sovereign class, a Galaxy, an Intrepid, all the different ones, and you could see them in one. He's
got to look like the janitor from Futurama.
Well, obviously, yes, and he has to have a dog with him.
What does that one look like, Scruffy? There's a dent.
Who's been messing with my ships?
Do we have any final thoughts? We don't have any final thoughts on ships, do we? Well, he has a million thoughts on ships.
I have so many thoughts. I literally could go on for another 3 hours on ships.
Well, the good news is Zoom sent me a message and said, you've reached 40 minutes, but you get a free pass today. So click here and you can carry on your conversation without we cutting you off. So that was very nice. Thank you, Zoom.
A little gift.
Yeah.
They knew that we were.
That's what it said. It said a gift. So thank you. Thank you, Zoom. Thank you guys for coming on. This was fantastic. Yeah. What's the episode title now? Shooting the ships? That's it. Shooting the ships.
I think that has to be it, because this was not about ships, but in a good way.
It was great. Thank you guys. This was amazing. So I'll put a couple links in the description. I'll put your Twitters in the description so that people can check you out. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.